before an ex-soldier rose up against Shinra, before a young boy set off from his island to save it from darkness, before the Aegis was awoken to protect the world of all rest. A single, nameless hero embarked on a journey to vanquish the evil Dragon Lord. Not a single companion joined him on his way, yet his courage remained unwavering. His journey would go on to inspire countless others, but he himself would slowly drift into obscurity, eclipsed by tales built upon his legacy. He would travel over perilous mountains, navigate frightening caverns, and vanquish hordes of monsters. But perhaps the largest legacy he would leave behind is the foundation of an entirely new genre in the world of gaming. This is our hero, and this is his story. Hi there, my name is Daniel, and I think Dragon Quest is pretty creative. When it comes to RPGs, there aren't many titles as legendary or influential as Dragon Quest. Inspired by Western classics like Ultima and Wizardry, series creator Yuji Horii wanted to provide a role-playing experience that would be accessible to gamers of various backgrounds and skill levels. The RPG genre has always been well known for its depth and complexity, and while those attributes can certainly be strengths, too many interconnecting systems to keep track of can leave less experienced players feeling overwhelmed and confused. This potential for frustration is exactly what Horii wanted to steer clear from in his new project, opting instead for an adventure with simpler mechanics designed for a wider audience. But the goal wasn't just simplicity. Horii also wanted to create a memorable world with a strong sense of identity, something that would leave an impression on players long after their journey was over. To create this identity, the team at Chunsoft called upon the talents of manga artist and character designer Akira Toriyama, who is best known today for his work on the Dragon Ball series, as well as classical composer Koichi Sugiyama, who had already established a following as an anime composer. These three, Horii, Toriyama, and Sugiyama, were in so many respects the three pillars of Dragon Quest, as they were primarily responsible for the unique legacy the series has enjoyed. Toriyama's characters and monsters have lived on as some of the most iconic in gaming, and Sugiyama's classical approach to the game's score was considered a revolutionary step in video game music, to say the least. So there it was. The team was assembled, the stage was set, and the only thing left to be seen was the adventure itself. But before we get to that, let's get the obvious out of the way. What you're looking at is not the game's original version. No, that's this. Initially released as Dragon Warrior in the West due to some trademark issues at the time, Dragon Quest has had a long history of ports and re-releases over the years. You got the Japan-exclusive Super Famicom version, which sports updated graphics and a higher quality soundtrack. Then there's a Game Boy Color port, which was released worldwide but had a massively pared-down script due to some limited cartridge space. Then, in 2014, the world received yet another port of the game for smartphone, which was then brought to the Nintendo Switch in 2019. Now, this version of the game does wield some unsightly visuals, with the updated battle sprites clashing horribly with the 16-bit inspired tileset and whatever these overworld sprites are supposed to be. Even the game's legendary soundtrack finds itself in a bit of an unhappy medium here, not having the nostalgia factor of the NES sound chip, but still obviously being made up of MIDI tracks rather than Sugiyama's orchestral masterpieces. These complaints, however, are only minor, in my opinion, as the Switch release is by far the easiest way to play the game as of the time of this recording, with numerous mechanical improvements inherited from other ports over the years, making the game far less of a grind to complete. Also, it's just the easiest version to tangibly get a hold of at this point, especially here in the US, which is why it's the one I'll be playing for this reflection. But enough of that, let's talk the quest itself. On one hand, Dragon Quest's story progression is almost absurdly simple by today's standards. The nation of Alfgard has been thrown into chaos by the evil Dragon Lord, a dark wizard who seeks to cover the world in darkness. The daughter of Alfgard's king, Princess Gwaelin, am I saying that correctly? Yeah, we'll go with Gwaelin, has also been taken captive by the menace, and in his desperation, the king is called upon you, the descendant of the legendary hero Erdrick. Many have tried to stop the Dragon Lord's schemes, but all have failed. Now the hope of Alfgard rests solely on your shoulders. And honestly, that's it. I just described the entire setup for Dragon Quest story. There are no lengthy cutscenes, no dramatic character introductions, just one simple task: defeat the Dragon Lord. Every action you take is a step towards accomplishing this mission, which creates an unwavering sense of purpose in this adventure that can so often be muddled or even lost the more convoluted a game's plot becomes. On the other hand, though, the exposition that is provided in this quest straight up dwarfs the plots of many competing titles at the time, when a game's story was pretty much exclusively told through the instruction manual. The fact that Dragon Quest consistently relies on expositional dialogue throughout was considered revolutionary at the time, and this game has been considered a major step forward for the importance of scenario writers in video games at large. Everything, the expressive art style, the detailed storytelling, the magical sound design and score, and the simple yet effective RPG mechanics, was coming together in a truly special adventure that wouldn't just see the Dragon Lord defeated, but the world of gaming forever changed as a result. Upon starting your adventure, you're given a brief commission by the King of Tantegel Castle and sent on your way. Leaving the castle, you'll likely notice the larger, more imposing castle that's just a stone's throw away from your position. You don't have enough information to be sure as of yet, but something tells you this is it. The Dragon Lord's castle and your ultimate goal. Speaking to townsfolk in the neighboring town will confirm this, as well as provide some helpful hints towards your next destination. In fact, the sheer lack of direction provided upon leaving the castle will likely teach you that speaking with denizens of Alefgard in each town you visit is absolutely essential to finding the way forward in your adventure. As a fan of RPGs, I'm pretty used to the old trope of talking to every NPC in town looking for hints, often laughing to myself, imagining that this person's one role in the world is to tell anyone who approaches about magic keys. But it's easy to forget that this formula of receiving hints from NPCs in an RPG largely originated here. I often found while playing Dragon Quest that I felt kind of like a detective, slowly solving the mystery of Alefgard as I asked around for clues. It was honestly a blast, and probably the most enjoyable and engaging part of my experience with the game. Another thing you'll notice immediately upon your departure from the castle is that this world is dangerous. There are monsters everywhere, and as an RPG, Dragon Quest's core gameplay largely revolves around fighting and overcoming these monsters in order to grow stronger and progress. Now, if you played an RPG, you know this gameplay loop well. Fight monsters, earn experience and cash, level up from the XP, and spend your earnings on better equipment so you can fight stronger monsters and progress. This is a well-worn RPG trope at this point, but here's the thing. Dragon Quest did it first. But even if the game's combat mechanics would go on to influence pretty much every RPG that came after, there's honestly not much more to talk about with the combat in this game. It's a great starting point, a solid foundation for future titles to build on, but it's not much more than that. Battles are so simple, in fact, that there's hardly any room for strategy at all, an element that's pretty much an expectation of RPG combat today. At most, you only ever have access to 3 types of combat actions: attack the enemy, put them to sleep, or prevent them from casting spells. And you don't have a party either. That's right, you're going it alone this time around, as the party mechanic wouldn't be introduced until the next entry. Because of this, most battles have a tendency to feel pretty wooden, with little to no available options for getting the upper hand on an enemy. Every step of progress in this game comes down to 2 things: stats and equipment. There is no glass cannon mage or support character to allow skilled players to finesse their way through battles. Straight up, you are either a high enough level to outdamage your opponent, or you're not. Victory hardly ever feels like a triumph of the mind, but rather a testament to your patience and perseverance to level up your character and grind for better equipment. Because grinding is an absolutely essential part of the Dragon Quest experience. Your path through Alefgard feels, in theory, very open and explorable, but in reality, you're being guided by invisible walls of higher level enemies that are virtually impossible to defeat if you're underleveled. There will be several points throughout your adventure in which you know where you need to go, but you're not able to travel there until you grind out a few more levels. Now, if you're an RPG fan, you're probably shaking your head and saying, "Of course you have to grind, Dan. It's an RPG." And I get it. Grinding at this point just feels like part of the entry fee of playing an RPG. Like it's just going to need to happen at some point. But there's always been a part of me that's wondered if this is just lazy design on the developer's part. Like, why would we need to grind if the progression of enemy levels rose consistently throughout the adventure? And that is why I was genuinely shocked to learn that the requirement for grinding in Dragon Quest was actually an intentional choice by Hori and his team to teach players perseverance. When asked about the element of grinding in Dragon Quest, Hori said, "It's like climbing a steep mountain. You have to keep climbing, 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 climbing. And then at the end, you finally get to the top of the mountain and you see the beautiful view." While other RPGs might have copied Chunsoft's formula without much thought, the Dragon Quest team had vision and purpose for acquiring this of players. grinding has never been my favorite part of playing any RPG, and I certainly didn't enjoy it in this game either. But I don't think I was supposed to, because Hori's team was committed to the experience they were providing, to grow stronger and overcome a great evil. And while they hadn't yet implemented strategic elements to the game's combat to create satisfying victories, they were still able to provide that sense of satisfaction, that beautiful view at the top of the mountain, through requiring players to persevere through hardship. Again, Chunsoft's mission with this first title was simplicity, and it's actually pretty cool to see the team's ruthless level of restraint in holding to this vision. Seeing as Dragon Quest II was released only a year after the original, it's safe to assume that many of the ideas and mechanics it introduced were likely considered for this game as well. But Hori and his team were playing the long game. They were confident in the foundation they were setting, and they wanted to make sure that core experience was as refined as possible. That commitment, not to the quantity of mechanics, but the quality, is the reason later Dragon Quest games and the RPG genre as a whole have been able to innovate in such creative ways. Dragon Quest walked so that Final Fantasy, Mother, Kingdom Hearts, and Xenoblade could run. And I admire the heck out of that. I feel I have so much to learn from a leader as unhurried, as committed to his current project of passion, as Yuji Horii. Hurry is the great enemy of joy in our lives, and it brings a smile to my face to play a game designed by people who understand that. I played Dragon Quest for the first time in 2020, nearly 35 years after its initial release, and I loved it. In fact, you can take this as my formal recommendation for the game. It's only a few bucks on the Nintendo eShop, and if you don't have a Switch, I would honestly even recommend it on mobile. All the charm and passion is still there today, and if you love RPGs, you owe it to yourself to experience this masterpiece that has likely inspired one of your favorite games. And in the meantime, take a second to reflect on your own life journey. Chances are, if you have enough time to watch this video, you've got enough time to take a couple deep breaths of gratitude as well. If you're like me and feeling exhausted in this season of life, take Hori's advice. Stop climbing for a second and just look around at how far you've come. Dragon Quest is most certainly steeped in the grind, but it's just as much about slowing down and enjoying your adventure as well. In fact, I would say that grinding and perseverance are only there as a means of enriching your enjoyment of Dragon Quest's world. And in the same way, I believe that life in our own world is more than just grinding towards money and success. Let tomorrow worry about itself, because today, there's a beautiful view just waiting to be enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching. If you had a good time and are itching for the next episode, hang tight because it's coming in just a couple weeks. And if you want to stay updated on my journey as I'm playing through games for this channel, feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And if you like what you saw here today, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you know when my next video is at. Have an awesome day, y'all, and I'll see you next time.